morning, everybody. So today we're going to start with an activity. I'm not going to give too much of an explanation. I'm just going to have you guys do the activity. So to begin, you're going to be working within your table groups, and I'm going to show you two sets of paragraphs. With your table group, you're going to be practicing reading these paragraphs with as much fluency and speed, if you can, as possible. The trick is that some of these letters are going to be highlighted in blue. The letters that are highlighted in blue, you cannot pronounce and cannot say. So you're going to be trying to say these paragraphs without those select letters. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys the paragraphs. I would like if half the class would do the first paragraph and the other half of the class do the other paragraph. You will be the second paragraph. Okay, you may begin.
I love evening pulls all D. If I could, particularly in this season, did oo know it was pull
to eat many bananas. Honors benefit fro consuming bananas be or after and eve during a
Martina, you try.
This fruit, it offers easy digestible fuel. It contains natural. That was really hard.
I don't really understand the point of it.
I know, I don't really know why we're doing this.
Well, Grace, I volunteered you that you should.
You think
present
me?
us.
I think you should go.
Yeah, you were the fastest at it.
Okay, guys, I'll do it.
Hi, everyone.
So my name is Louisa.
I'm Gwen.
I'm Martina.
And I'm Grace.
And today we're going to be presenting our lesson plan on the social justice topic of anti-discrimination against English second language learners. So before we begin, we'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. As we gather today, we acknowledge that the land we gather, work, live, and play, in which Bishop's University operates, is the stolen land called Nikita. This land has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst resilient Indigenous people. As students of the university, we acknowledge how the mountains surrounding us near the Nicanagua intersect with waterways of the Massawippi and the Alisalongtag that have nourished, protected, and provided for Indigenous people for thousands of years. We must acknowledge and comprehend the long, violent, and oppressive history that has led us to gather on this land today. Canada as a country was founded by using colonization, a system that stole, oppressed, and abused Indigenous peoples. This was not a historical incident or accident. Colonialism is ongoing, and Indigenous people experience the oppressive colonist systems daily. As pre-service teachers, we acknowledge Canada's oppressive colonial systems and the educational structures and institutions. We pledge to take concrete steps and responsibility for being part of the change towards reconciliation. Reconciliation is the undertaking of actionable steps towards justice for Indigenous people. We are committed to learning, listening, empowering, and advocating for change on and off campus.
And now we're going to outline our positionality statements. So I, Louisa Restrepo, am a Brazilian Colombian cisgendered female advocating for immigrants under discrimination. As someone who recognizes the importance of treating individuals with respect despite our differences, I firmly believe in advocating for equity. My perspective is shaped by my and my family's personal experiences as immigrants in Canada, which inform my commitment to anti-discrimination. I am dedicated to fostering and contributing to a more equitable society.
I, Grace Ross, a white cisgendered female, am advocating for immigrants under discrimination. As someone who recognizes the importance of treating individuals with respect despite our differences, I firmly believe in advocating for equity.
I, Gwen Hubbard, a white cisgendered female, advocate for immigrants under discrimination. As someone who recognizes the importance of treating individuals with respect despite our differences, I firmly believe in advocating for equity.
I'm Martina Burgers, a white cisgender female, advocate for immigrants under discrimination. As someone who recognizes the importance of treating individuals with respect despite our differences, I firmly believe in advocating for equity.
So now we're going to go into the bulk of the lesson. So to begin, for the introduction and our hook, we just did the main, not the main. So now to get into the bulk of the lesson, we begin with our introduction and our hook being an activity-based hook. For then the main activity be the discussion and the reflection of the activity that we began with. So like you saw in the previous video, we handed out paragraphs that had paragraphs where the students would have to read among their table groups. There were letters that were highlighted, they weren't pronouncing the letters that were highlighted, and they were practicing reading with fluency. Following this activity, the students, and these are the paragraphs that we mentioned. And then for the main activity, the discussion period that I previously mentioned, we are going to be asking a lot of our inquiry questions during this time. So we begin this by asking, did you find it challenging to understand or follow the text? Did you think this could influence your perspective of the reader? Did the delivery of the text make you question the content? What message or lesson do you think could come from this activity? So this is a discussion period where we're going to allow students to kind of debate what they think the alternative motive is behind this activity. After this discussion where we listen to some of their ideas, we're going to be explaining the intention of the lesson. So with that, we're going to explain that this concept ties into individuals with accents, typically immigrants. Discrimination against immigrants can be on physical appearances, although are often instigated by individuals' accents. After this brief explanation on discrimination on immigrants, we will be asking, in what situations could you see this discrimination being present? Could you share any moments you witnessed or experienced discrimination of this manner? Following this discussion, we will conclude with a final reflection on how the students felt about the activity. Did this activity change their perspective on the social justice topic? Have they thought about this subject prior? Do you think this is an issue in your environment, in their school environment, or in Quebec as a whole? And then going into accommodations, the text will be read online or on paper. There'll be varying text sizes for students with visual impairment. Students who want to read will be able to share, and students who do not want to partake can observe their peers. And now we're going to move into the learning intentions.
Okay, so the learning goals for this activity and the lesson is to make sure that students are developing their empathy skills to actively contribute to working towards an inclusive classroom, and also developing the ability to critically analyze the stereotypes that immigrants may be facing.
We are now going to discuss the Quebec Education Plan. So all of these different components in the education plan. So the first one being subject-specific student competencies. We got these from the ethics and religious culture, and in the program it says that the main student competency reflects on ethical questions. So the key features are: identifies a situation from an ethical point of view, evaluates opinions or possible actions, and examines several cultural, moral, religious, scientific, or social references. And then the broad areas of learning is citizenship and community life, which the key features are involvement in action in a spirit of cooperation and solidarity, as well as culture of peace.
So for the progression of learning, we chose under ethics and religious culture, under knowledge related to practice of the dialogue, we chose D, so that is means for examining a point of view, and then we chose 2C, which is processes that may hinder dialogue and appeal to the crowd and appeal to prejudice and appeal to stereotype and an argument from authority. And then for the cross-curricular competencies, we chose to exercise critical judgment, to qualify his or her judgment, and then to cooperate with others, to interact with an open mind in various contexts.
And so for this lesson plan, we decided to target it towards grade 6 students. Our justification for that was that students are able to self-regulate at this age. This is kind of an activity that could get silly, you could say. So students having the ability to self-regulate will be necessary. Students also have a higher critical analysis skills at this level, so they'll be able to discover the purpose of the activity easier. Students' reading levels are also more appropriate to dealing with manipulated text. And for the age-appropriate definition, we will be using the words recognizing unfair treatment for immigrants living in Canada whose first language is not English.
Okay, so the impact on Quebec education, we have access to education, so barriers such as language-based discrimination or cultural insensitivity can make it more challenging for immigrants to enroll in schools, access certain resources, and fully participate in the educational experience. We also chose dropout rates. If students feel unwelcome or unsupported in their environment, they're more likely to disengage in school, which could have long-term consequences on their learning. And then we chose social integration, so if these students feel isolated or unwelcome in the classroom, it'll be harder for them to build relationships with their peers, and it could affect their overall sense of belonging and well-being. And then for the impacts to Turtle Island overall, we have employment discrimination. So they may face occupational segregation and or be limited to certain industrial and jobs regardless of their experience. For housing inequality, they may face certain discrimination on the housing market or not be able to find suitable housing. They may be racially or ethnically profiled and stereotyped based on their race or ethnicity, which could lead to law profiling or negative perceptions, or health disparities, which could lead to unlimited access to healthcare services.
Now to jump into how this activity and this lesson promoted social justice and anti-oppression, we have that it was promoting inclusivity, so we were fostering a sense of belonging for every student coming from various backgrounds, and we were fostering like a welcoming environment for our students to know that no matter what their background is, they are welcome in our classroom. We were also targeting cultural competence, which is gaining appreciation to diverse cultures. We are also breaking down and challenging the stereotypes and biases related to language proficiency, as well as developing a more accurate understanding of ESL, which minimizes negative attitudes that may arise due to ignorance, as well as language equity, which encourages the recognition of linguistic diversity, as well as it emphasizes proficiency in English, that it is not a measure of intelligence, capability, or worth. Every student should feel welcome and deserving of the learning opportunities. We are now going to speak on how our teaching practice is influenced from this lesson.
So to begin, probably the most influential factor will be that we will have students of diversity in our classroom. We want to be able to make them as welcome as we can and understand some of their heritage and some problems they may pass.
And then it is also our job and our duty to make sure that every student coming into our classroom feels welcome, and it is our job to allow every student the right to be able to practice the language of English.
And we feel that as teachers, we need to emphasize the values of empathy and acceptance.
It's also important as teachers to create a safe space for all of our students, as well as maybe some of our peers or other students in the school that may need some support.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, reiterating the activity, we passed out some paragraphs. The students had to read the paragraphs without saying or pronouncing the highlighted letters. Yeah. Not. I don't think you're bleeding.
Oh. Got the cameras.
Oh, mommy. Paragraphs that we mentioned.
No, too fun.
Okay, wait, I thought the main activity was gonna be right after it.
Yeah, me too.
So did I.
Yeah.
Let's move it.
In the program, it says that the main student competency reflects on ethical questions.
We should walk on though, so it looks more fluid.
So you guys first, yeah.